mentioned people in the band earlier, but I wanted to draw people's attention to one person in particular. That's your brother Roberto.
Right. Luckily, he doesn't have a microphone today.
Not that that's ever stopped him in the past. A longtime supporter of.
You're talking about me in front of me, in front of live audience, national radio.
I just want to get you into the zone where you're going to tell jokes. No, I don't really, because I heard one before. I heard one before we went on here. The age difference between you and Roberto?
12 years.
12 years.
Yeah.
So in terms of the Occhipinti family, there were 5 siblings.
There's 5 siblings.
And what was the?
So my sister Joanne is 23 years older than me, and I'm the baby of the family. And then my brother Peter is 18 years older than me, and then comes Roberto, who's 12 years older, and then Sylvia is 11 years older.
So being the baby of the family, I'm the baby of our family
Okay.
too. And to
All
this
right.
day, my
Then you
sister.
can say that word.
To this day, my sister still calls me baby brother.
Yes. I know that feeling.
Thank you. And who is it that calls you baby brother?
Sometimes my sister Joanne may call me my baby brother. He just calls me his little brother still sometimes.
Well, kid brother.
Kid brother.
It sounds like a movie.
And out of the family, who influenced you most in terms of your musical taste?
Well, our oldest brother Peter, he was the one that had the Beatles epiphany, and he worked as a musician for many years. He's kind of retired now, but he used to play the tenor saxophone. He was a pretty good tenor saxophone player in high school, and then he heard the Beatles, and it changed his life. And he picked up the guitar and started singing, and so if I can speak for my brother, I was very young at the time, but I've heard the stories, and so he kind of forced Roberto to learn the Beatles bass parts. But by the time with the age difference, by the time I was like 8 or 9, they were both playing gigs, and so from each of them I got very different exposure to different music. My brother Peter, aside from the Beatles, kind of turned me on to Jeff Beck and Stevie Ray Vaughan and Jimi Hendrix and King Crimson and things, stuff like that. And then with Roberto, it was a really mixed bag of stuff, because on the one hand, I think that's where I get my love of Stevie Wonder from. I remember I'd get in his Fiat and he'd have Songs in the Key of Life on cassette, and I'd say, we gotta listen to that. But Roberto was playing in salsa bands, and he was the principal bassist in the Canadian Opera Company, and playing jazz. The first jazz I saw was probably a group that my guitar teacher, my cousin David and I both studied with a guy named Carlos Lopez, and he used to have a kind of fusion band that my brother played bass in, and that was kind of the first thing that I'd kind of go see regularly down at the Beecher Cafe, I think it was, right?
Yeah, it was the Beecher Cafe.
I think the interesting thing about that is that I think it never occurred to me that a musician would choose to do otherwise than to play a bunch of different kinds of music. You know what I mean? I never had this idea that I would only do one thing, and I still don't. I still play all kinds of gigs.
So 3 out of the 5 Occhipinti siblings played music.
Yeah.
What was the home life like? What was there that made that possible?
Well, my parents were Sicilian, and my dad was a stonemason by training, but he loved opera. And
born in Sicily?
Born in Sicily. He was 30 when he came to Canada. So Roberto and I are born here in Sylvia, but Peter and Joanne were both born there. My dad was a stonemason, because the idea of, he loved music, but the idea of, that you can make a living at it, if it seems crazy in Toronto, it's especially crazy in post-war Sicily, our aunts and uncles, they would tell us these stories of our dad as a young man, bellowing out. I'm not saying he was particularly brilliant, he just had a loud voice, but he'd sing these Neapolitan songs, and and the funny thing is, when I did the Sicilian Jazz Project, a lot of people asked me, like, is this all the music that that you were immersed in when you were a kid? And I was like, well, it's all the music I avoided when I was a kid. It was only later, when my parents had passed on, that I kind of wanted to explore that side of things. But I mean, I speak Sicilian dialect, as do we all, and you kind of take it for granted that that's part of you, you know.
So was masonry the family business?
Yeah, he had he and my Uncle Joe both had construction companies. They just did general contracting. You know,
So
there wasn't a lot of call for like carving marble, but in Sicily, that's what he did. You know, he was like he was the real deal. You know, he could carve, you know, crosses and rosette windows and churches and stuff like that.
So sometimes with family businesses, it's understood that that's going to be the summer job.
Yes, it was. I think my brothers did it more than me.
More than some.
Yeah, but I did it just enough. I did it just enough to know I didn't really want to do that. I think I just start, you know, because I had started playing the guitar too. So you know, the job I always got was, you know, take the bricks out of the truck, put them in the wheelbarrow, bring the bricks to the scaffolding, and put the bricks on the scaffolding, which is terrible for your hands, right? So I quickly displayed how poorly adapted I was to that job, and my dad got somebody else.